So this is kind of just a special little rant video I'm just going to plop on YouTube. I'm not going to do much editing or anything. But I wanted to do this quickly because I read yesterday, and I wanted this to be timely. There was an article yesterday about the team behind Cuphead making their sheet music available for purchase. And this is bigger news than I think it's getting credit for. So for a little background, they're going to make 4 different kinds of arrangements available. So they're going to have barbershop quartet style arrangements for jazz band, for student ensembles like student concert band, and then for professional ensembles. The reason I'm ranting about this is because Cuphead's doing something that I've wanted people to do forever. Video game arrangements are just so few and far between. They're so not accessible at all. For example, I'm going to plop on the screen the J.W. Pepper website. And that's, for those of you who don't know, where a bunch of people get sheet music, a bunch of teachers, professionals, everyone. It's one of the biggest sources. But if we look for video game music, we have a lot of Civilization 6 for some reason, which is cool, but I don't know why. But besides that, we just have like suites and medleys and maybe some one-offs of like really popular stuff like the Kingdom Hearts theme, but then no other music from Kingdom Hearts, like only the main theme that everyone knows has value, and you program it at the end of the concert as like a fun thing for the kids. I don't think that's treating video game music with the proper respect that it deserves at this point. There are a bunch of like random arrangements available online, and some of them are great, but like just fan-created things, and then you get confused with the copyright, and you also have to go through and make sure it's actually good because it doesn't have the official stamp of approval on it. You know, you have touring groups like you have the Zelda Tour, Symphony of the Goddesses, you have the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds, Pokemon, Symphonic Evolutions, things like that. Those guys are holding on to those arrangements like they're gold. It's like, you're never going to see those things. Like, they're out touring it. Why would they want to give that away for someone to play and then take away from their ticket sales? I get it, but at the same time, come on, we gotta be spreading this stuff. We gotta be making it a little bit more readily available for people to use so it can be taken more seriously. Now, I am not a professor or a teacher or anything like that. I'm actually going for certification to teach music in public schools, but I don't have that yet. So maybe take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but from my perspective, from the classes I've taken so far and stuff, I know that we need to get on the levels of non-musicians or budding musicians. We need to get on their level. You know, I knew someone in my first graduate program who said, I get trying to get on their level, but what are we going to do? Analyze Taylor Swift? It's just 3 chords. It's so simple, you know, Katy Perry, whatever. But what those artists are doing with those 3 chords is speaking to these students, and we do need to get on that level because it is having that reaction to them that Brahms might not be having. And maybe Brahms can have that through that, but the way that people are taking music in now is so different. They're not even, it's like subconscious almost. They're watching movies and they're hearing the music, they're playing video games and hearing the music through that. And I think that's how they're creating emotional connection to music. It's through a lot of programmatic means. They might see something in a video game and hear a melody that goes along with it and they associate with it, and then maybe they take that association and compare it to their own lives. And especially as our country grows more diverse, financially, culturally, all around, we need to understand that people are taking in music in different ways, and they're taking different music in different ways. And video game music can provide such a great entry point to all kinds of different music. You know, if we're just thinking about popular games right now as I'm recording this, Cuphead's one of them. It has barbershop, quartet kind of things, big jazzy things, like old cartoon kind of aesthetic. You got things like Spider-Man for PS4. I know that's rated T for teen, so maybe some kids aren't playing it, but let's be real, they are. Big swooping like film score, like the Spider-Man movie. And I could see some professionals or higher-ups being like, you know, we talk about making these entry points, but Bruckner should be appreciated for Bruckner, and it shouldn't need anything else. Well, I appreciate Bruckner for who he is, but you have to look back on your own upbringing. For example, I played a lot of Final Fantasy games personally, and that's how I got into big orchestral, romantic kind of scores. But I only did that because I liked the game so much. You know, I had an emotional connection to the characters of that game and the experiences of the plot and my friends playing the games and going to school and just talking to them about it. There's like a little culture around every game. Just like there's like a culture around different kinds of music. And depending on your own upbringing, you might disregard another type as like barbaric or something like that. And that's a bad attitude to have, because all that does is make classical music seem snobbish and just for the elite class or something like that. The people that really take classical music in know that a lot of these scores have such strong aesthetic, intrinsic value. That's the reason why we want to push Bruckner and Brahms and Beethoven and Bach and all the other people that start with B so hard on our students. It comes from a good place. We have to understand, though, that through the ages, classical music has had this stigma that it's just for the upper edges of society, and it still has that stereotype. So the more we can ease people into it, the better. Now, so far I've just talked about it as an entry point, but also this music definitely has intrinsic value of its own, especially to players. Some of this music is as complex as some, old opera and things like that. You have your leitmotifs, you have really intense production inside some of these EDM arrangements. Saying that video game music itself is a genre, it encompasses 1.5 billion subgenres then. Heck, this even makes music, interactive in newer ways. What you do in the game will change the music. Sometimes the music it's part of playing the game. And something like the VR, like Beat Saber, the VR game, things like that, Rock Band, obviously, Elite Beat Agents, I'm just thinking off the cuff here, but you play with the music, and it provides another entry point besides buying $1 billion violin. That's just not possible for some kids, so that's how they get their fix. So the teams behind the games making this stuff available is really big and really important, and I really hope that it just becomes a trend and everyone just starts doing it. So that was my ranting and raving. I don't know if I actually said anything of any worth, but if you did like it, please maybe show it to an educator, show it to a professional, someone in academia, someone in college, whatever, and maybe, we can try to strong arm it into really programming this kind of music, because it has value on its own, it's resonating with kids, it provides a great entry point, it provides great learning materials, and man, I really just want this to be a thing, so please spread the video if it's helped at all, and I'll see you next time in a more structured, non-ranty video.